All right, let's go to dirty boxing 2, right? A couple more things that we can do when it comes to dirtying up our boxing a little bit. So lacing used to be a thing in the ring. Obviously you have laces on your hands that come down in the palm of your hand, and that was used to annoy or disrupt the vision of your opponent. And it looks like you're throwing a shot. So in other words, if I'm gonna lace, it looks like this, but it's this. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the palm of my hand and I'm trying to impact it across the face of my opponent. Now, sometimes you can do that like in a Muay Thai clinch, you know, obviously we'll go through that and how to take the guy's break out of the clinch. In Muay Thai, we can use the palm of our hands a lot more, and there's a lot more active participation and contact with the guy's head with your hands other than in a fist, okay? So again, if Rod comes in here, if we're in tight, okay, here, and I want to lace him, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the hand, I'm here, I could be half clinch, I could be here, I could literally have both hands free, and all I'm doing is I'm rubbing this way, okay? Now, that lace, that motion, obviously in a bare hand on the street, can be your fingers in the eyes, it could be the palm heel on the nose, it could be the palm heel to the cheekbone, or whatever. You'd use that when maybe you don't have the ergonomics for a full shot, or you want to disrupt his vision. In other words, I don't want to punch him, I want to make him so he can't see, make his eyes tear and water and all that stuff. It's just a dirty technique to rub the guy's face, okay? Now that translates almost immediately to the use of a frame. So if I can turn his head so he can't look at me, if I'm here and I lace him like this, now all I've got to do is frame this way, and now I've got the elbow coming back the other side. Okay, so again, if you look at that transition, all I'm doing is lacing, getting in his eyes to frame that elbow. Okay, and again, I'm checking his arm, I'm keeping this arm out of play, and I know where the other arm is. Okay, now the blocks that I'm using inside, you know, you're not going to do like a standard outside elbow block. If he starts to try to punch me with this hand, I can drop my elbow up, all right? And very often times you'll see that, and a lot of times fighters, when they start getting punches that come from the outside, rather than do this, punch me, rather than doing this, okay, punch me, you'll see this. Okay, so again, my elbow's up and inside. And what does that let my palm do out of that if I want to get dirty? I'm coming right to his face. Again, so, you know, be flexible with what you're doing with your elbows, and just be aware that this is as much as a utility block as this is, okay? The next thing we'll talk about is, as we're going along, is the kidney punching. Now, kidney punching in MMA is legal in a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of venues, okay? When you hit somebody in the kidney, it's not as bad as getting hit in the liver, and the effect, of course, is going to be probably the next day when they're pissing blood. But super effective strike because they hurt, okay? And anytime I can get the angle, say for example, I slip under his arm, which is another dirty boxing technique. This arm starts coming at me and I slip under. All I'm doing is this. So as I come up, you see my shoulder? It's gonna come under his arm and stand tall. So now he's the one that's off balance, okay? My arm's across him here, and I've got, step this way, Ron. I've got full access, boom, 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 to be battering his kidneys. Okay, so again, that entry point is anytime I can pop under, I'm stepping up. It's like a side clinch, okay, just like in Muay Thai, okay? So I'm here, and I'm just gonna batter, boom, the kidney, and then when I come out of this, make sure that I step around, right? And I come to the back, because obviously that's smarter than standing in front of him. All right, so now you've got lacing, okay? You've got the kidney punch and how to get it, coming underneath and stepping up and making that guy's shoulder real high so he can't use it. The last thing I'm going to talk about is how to get a rabbit punch. And again, we're not doing these videos for use in combat sports, but dirty boxing, the name, it's illegal to hit, obviously, at the base of the skull or on the back of the neck. Okay, so disguising that, okay, in a ring, and it happens often, is by throwing an overhand long. So in other words, if I'm here and I really know how effective it is to hit, well, that's why we teach, you know, the chin rip, all right, from that arm blast, the bent arm blast going across the back of the neck, okay? If I want to hit that, all I've got to do is throw my punch long. So in other words, instead of the overhand right coming here and coming in short, I just want to extend my arm, make sure that I'm stepping with the offside foot, and all I'm going to do is this, okay? And I'm going to strike to the back of the head. Obviously super effective. Now, there is a cautionary note about hitting in the back of the head. You can hit to the back of the head so hard that you get an arterial rip. If you get an arterial rip, it may not be apparent right away when you do that to somebody, okay? So later on, they get what's called a bleed, and the blood obviously fills the cranium and puts pressure on the brain, and you could die as a result of it. So it's nothing to play with. Like, you would never walk up behind someone and slap them in the back of the neck as hard as you could, or like in Kembativz, hammer fist them on the back of the neck as hard as you could. Understand what you're doing when you do that, okay? That there's a real risk of a consequence you didn't see coming. Okay. The last thing we can talk about is I don't like to talk about foot trapping, because a lot of times when people, talk about dirty boxing, they talk about stepping on feet. In order to step on feet, you've got to kind of look and be conscious of it. Now, normally, stand lefty rod as a southpaw. It happens as an unintended consequence when you're facing a southpaw fighter. A lot of times, as we're trying to fight the foot war, right, on keeping my foot to the outside, that's what you'll always got to be concerned about, right? You never want to have your foot on the inside like this, because now my hip's trapped, his hip's open. I want my foot on the outside so I can turn my hip over, okay? But in that battle, when we're doing it, sometimes by accident, you can step on a foot. Now, there are people out there that will say, foot trapping is a technique that, is really useful. And yeah, when you do step on someone's foot and they try to move and can't, it is useful. Some of the Indonesian, Malaysian martial arts are big into foot trapping. I'm not sure that the risk of trying to find where that guy's foot is worth the benefit of what you're going to get. I'm not sure. I don't practice that. I don't preach it. I don't teach it to our fighters. If it happens, okay. And I think that you're more vulnerable and at risk when you're looking for it or hunting it. Okay, so that's just a little diatribe on dirty boxing. 3 techniques for you to put in your quiver.